Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the epic conclusion of one of the greatest sci-fi sagas ever written. Using the final book, Sandworms of Dune, we're going to break down how this massive, galaxy-spanning story finally comes to an end.
You know, for decades, fans have wondered about the ultimate fate of humanity, the spice, and those thinking machines. The big question has always been the same. After all the sacrifices, from Paul Atreides to his son Leto II, and the seemingly endless lives of Duncan Idaho, what was it all for? How does it all end?
Well, the answer is just as epic as you'd imagine. It all comes down to one final spectacular showdown. And this isn't just a battle with ships and lasers, it's a metaphysical war of minds and machines, with the very soul of humanity hanging in the balance.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this finale, we first have to understand the sheer scale of the threat. We're not talking about another rival house or some political squabble. No, this was the ancient enemy, and they were back.
So let's talk about Omnius. This is the very same AI that sparked the Butlerian Jihad thousands and thousands of years ago. That was humanity's original, brutal war against thinking machines. Omnius represents pure, cold, deterministic logic, and it's returned convinced that it has foreseen every single move humanity could possibly make.
Now, what makes this final war so terrifying is that it's being fought on two fronts at once. Out in space, you have Omnius with this unbelievable fleet. But back home, a hidden enemy is already inside the house. Shape-shifting face dancers have gotten into every major power structure, which means you can't trust anyone. Absolutely no one.
So, you've got enemies everywhere, an AI that can predict your every move. How in the world could humanity possibly win this? Well, ironically, their victory came from the very things the machines saw as human flaws. And right at the heart of their strategy is the Gola. Now, these aren't just simple clones. They are resurrected beings. The ultimate example of this? The final Duncan Idaho. By this point, he carries the memories and the trauma of thousands of years of living, dying, and being reborn. His entire tragic journey has forged him into something, well, something more than human. He's become a living weapon of resilience.
Humanity's path to victory wasn't about bigger ships or better lasers. Nope. It all came down to these three things. Using genetics to adapt and rebuild, getting ancient enemies to finally work together for a common cause, and, most importantly, relying on the one thing a machine could never, ever compute: genuine, uncalculated human choice.
And this quote right here, it just nails the core theme of the entire finale. Omnius was a master of logic, a master of prediction, but it was totally blind to the power of a truly random act of free will, or a selfless, totally illogical sacrifice. So this was humanity's real arsenal. Not warships, but these fundamental pieces of the human condition. The ability to bring entire genetic lines back from the dead, the power of a shared goal against all odds, the wisdom of an identity forged over millennia, and that final, unbeatable weapon, free will. All right, so all of this strategy brings us to the climax, the ultimate resolution of the entire saga. And after millennia of struggle, humanity finally gets a definitive and very hard-won victory.
That's right. After that final showdown, the threat that has loomed over the entire universe since the very beginning is finally and completely gone. The age of Omnius is over. For good.
But look, victory wasn't just about destroying an enemy. It was about rebirth and restoration. And in the Dune universe, nothing, and I mean nothing, signifies life and potential more than the flow of melange.
And the absolute key to this rebirth was the creation of true sandworms, which guaranteed that the spice would flow forever. This symbolized a vital lesson learned across all those ages. Real power isn't about hoarding a resource. It's about understanding and controlling the very process of its creation. And this, right here, is the ultimate triumph. The universe is now free. Free from the rigid control of a calculating AI, and free from the suffocating empires of the past. For the first time in eons, humanity has a truly fresh start, a future that is finally and wonderfully unpredictable. But, this is Dune. The story might be over, but the ideas, they're just getting started. The saga leaves us with some really deep questions to chew on about power, heroism, and what it even means to survive. Think about it.
For 6 books, the saga has been questioning the whole idea of a messiah. And in the end, victory wasn't won by a single prophesied superbeing. It was won by a small, desperate team. Duncan, Shiana, the last Lelaksu master, all working together. It's a pretty fascinating final word on that whole lone savior narrative, isn't it?
And this next one, this is a pretty chilling thought. I mean, if the most powerful and secretive organizations in the universe could be so completely compromised by shapeshifters, it raises a serious question about how vulnerable any institution we put our trust in really is.
And this brings us right back to the central, philosophical conflict that has driven Dune from the very beginning. In a reality where the future can be seen, where every action can be calculated, where does genuine, unscripted choice actually come from? The saga may be over, but man, that question remains.